So crazy news today. Mr. Powell, here he is in all his gray and oldness. He's not going to get renominated. Can he? Can you renominate, actually? I actually don't know that when it comes to the Fed. But either way, we've seen job numbers lately, but we've also seen inflation data lately. Inflation ticking up, but job numbers over the last 2 years is... Now we're kind of at that, almost like not much is being created overall in the private non-farm sector. So he's reacting, and it looks like we're finally getting a 1/4 point cut, 25 basis points. So it's pretty exciting. Let's see what's going on. And of course, we'll watch the most entertaining news network because fuck it, or live streaming. Why not? Fox Business.
My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. While the unemployment rate remains low, it has edged up. Job gains have slowed and downside risks to employment have risen. At the same time, inflation has risen recently and remains somewhat elevated.
That's the concern, because if it's the dual mandate, low inflation, low unemployment, if both are doing the opposite of what you want them to do, how do you do that? The very most basic thing, as many in chat probably already know, but let's just talk about it. Inflation high, you cool the economy. You do that by raising rates, making it more expensive to borrow. Okay, there you go. That brings unemployment a little higher, cooling the overall economy, bringing inflation down. The other side of the mandate, low inflation. Let's say inflation's on the way up. Low unemployment. Let's say unemployment's on the way up. You cut rates, you make it cheaper, you bring money into the economy. You bring up the job creation is the overall vision there. That's the overall objective. What do you do when unemployment's headed up but inflation's going up? You can't, it offsets. To fight the dual mandate, you can't raise, you can't cut, you can't do whatever. So they're likely viewing the risk to inflation going up versus the risk of unemployment going up as the risk of unemployment going up being the more in danger right now. So that's it. Does that matter if companies are buying houses and not people? Well, you remember, corporate owned single family houses are less than 1% of the overall market. Now they own a lot of apartment complexes, of course, but you're not going to go buy an apartment complex. But you do have to remember that that is a typically overhyped thing. And it is less than 1% of the overall single family housing market. Quarter ain't going to do anything. Well, here's the thing. Quarter was already priced in. Quarter's been priced in for a long time.
In support of our goals and in light of the shift in the balance of risks, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a 1/4 percentage point. We also decided to continue to reduce our securities holdings.
One of the Fed governors did dissent to this, though, and we will talk about it because it's not insignificant.
I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments.
All right, let's go into a further conversation. Again, on the entertaining... Well, actually, fuck it. Let's see what Powell's saying.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. While the unemployment rate remains low, it has edged up. Job gains have slowed and downside risks to employment have risen. At the same time, inflation has risen recently and remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals and in light of the shift in the balance of risks, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a 1/4 percentage point. We also decided to continue to reduce our securities holdings. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that growth of economic activity has moderated.
Yeah, that's the scary thing right now. And I think that's what they're prioritizing above all else. We're all doomed, says Tater Tot. Mr. Tater Tot, I don't think that's the best way to live, because if we're all doomed, the logic is then to do what? You don't invest. You don't do anything. You don't buy a house, because if we're doomed, there's no future. So that's not how I live. That's not how I can live.
GDP rose at a pace of around 1.5% in the first half of the year.
1.5% GDP growth. Now that is always after inflation, but it is still slow. Of course, we're at the top of the world, but that is still slow.
Down from 2.5% last year.
Yeah.
The moderation in growth largely reflects a slowdown in consumer spending.
People aren't going places, man. People aren't traveling as much. People aren't going out there and blowing. People are holding on to their money right now with fear. This is another reason why we're seeing the tech market, even the private sector is holding on to their money. They're not going out there and hiring like crazy. And they overhired a few years ago, especially in tech. So that's why we're seeing such a bad job market, especially for men graduating college who are more likely to go into tech, engineering, sciences versus women who are in services and healthcare, which are more recession resistant.
Contrast, business investment in equipment and intangibles has picked up from last year's pace. Activity in the housing sector remains weak. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.6% this year and 1.8% next year.
1.8 next year? Still slow next year? Trump's not going to be happy about that. Well, isn't Trump? Trump's been wanting what? 3% GDP year-over-year growth?
A touch stronger than projected in June.
That's good, I guess.
In the labor market, the unemployment rate edged up to 4.3% in August, but remains little changed over the past year at a relatively low level. Payroll job gains have slowed significantly to a pace of just 29,000 per month over the past 3 months.
That's the big scary thing. We're doing our part. We have a few open job positions. You can look up Hammer Media on LinkedIn if you want to come work for us.
A good part of the slowing likely reflects a decline in the growth of the labor force due to lower immigration and lower labor force participation.
Yeah, there's a massive percent of men in particular. Listen, young men like under 26 years old, under 25 years old, they got some fucking problems right now. But there's, I always forget the term, chat, if you want to throw it in real quick, but they're not learning, they're not training, and they're not working. They're like, there's some term for them, but they're doing literally nothing. Oh, just like you in chat. That's good, .pig. Neat. Yeah, they're neat. NEET. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And there's a massive percentage. Gooners. No, us Gooners. I represent all Gooners out there as Gooner Prime, and we still get shit done so we can afford the goon. Because you have to be able to afford the goon.
Even so, labor demand has softened, and the recent pace of job creation appears to be running below the break-even rate needed to hold the unemployment rate constant. In addition, wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall,
that is true. And it's not something a lot of people want to acknowledge. Wage growth has outbeat inflation since inflation's come down from the peak. Now you have to do that for quite a few fucking years for it to beat how substantially inflation in 2021, was it? Or 2022 beat wages. So even if we're beating it right now, you still got to play catch up for a while. Remember the years leading up to COVID, it was like sometimes inflation beat wages, sometimes wages beat inflation. It kept being like just slightly beating each other out. It was mostly steady. And then the inflation during COVID happened. There's a grew inflation. And now we're slightly above inflation. It's like, so it's gonna take a while.
The marked slowing in both the supply of and demand for workers is unusual. In this less dynamic and somewhat softer labor market, the downside risks to employment appear to have risen. In our SEP, the median projection for the unemployment rate is 4.5% at the end of this year and edges down thereafter.
Oh, we're fucking edging, baby. Oh, I've always wanted to edge with Jerome. 4.5%. Well, we were like up to 10% of the Great Recession rate. Unemployment rate in U.S. during, I think they aim for that, like 3.8. Yeah, 9.5. No, 10%. Which was the peak in October 2009. And then June 2009 was the official end of recession because we had GDP growth of 9.5%, which is fucking crazy. And that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yeah, we're jorking. Yeah, 10% and 10% unemployment rate is fucking crazy. But 4.5, that's also it's not lovely. It's not nice. You know, the Fed, they shoot for that, 2% inflation, but I don't think they have an overall. Yeah, they shoot for maximum sustainable employment, but they don't have a fixed number for what unemployment looks like. But they do estimate natural or long run unemployment rate about 4%. So 4.5 isn't horribly off from the range. And that ranges from Fed staff projections of 3.8 to 4.3% for sustainable inflation or unemployment. Sorry.
Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal.
Yeah, we're like 3, right?
Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.7% over the 12 months ending in August, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, Core PCE prices rose 2.9%. These readings are higher than earlier in the
Or else, I mean, I have people around the office who even fucking knows who's right. But, you know, one of my employees, he's like, if it was literally anyone besides Jerome, which, by the way, the Fed chair would have to, or the Fed governors would have to agree with, so I don't know if this is accurate, but he was like, they'd cut by 50 basis points right now. I don't know if that's true, but I think he's nervous about inflation.
year as inflation for goods has picked up. In contrast, disinflation appears to be continuing for services. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up, on balance, over the course of this year on news about tariffs, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal.
How? Where are they seeing the decrease? Are they seeing enough economic slowdown to bring it that far down that quickly? How? Where are they seeing this? Caleb, isn't it a good thing to have somewhere between 2 to 5% unemployment to keep balance between available workers' wage? Well, that's why they shoot for 4%, right? 2% would be crazy. I feel like 2% would lead to a pretty intense inflation, similar to what we saw when any company was willing to pay literally every over salary possible to get anyone to work in tech during COVID. It was fucking crazy.
The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation is 3.0% this year and falls to 2.6% in 2026 and to
How do they get that?
2.1% in 2027.
See, so it's expecting 2 years of economic slowdown. Is that what I'm hearing? Like, where are they getting to that 2% in 2 years or a year and a half?
Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to lower the target range for the federal funds rate by a quarter percentage point to 4.
By the way, I think gold closed at record highs today, which is never a great sign when it comes to inflation.
To 4.25%, and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. Changes to government policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. Higher tariffs have begun to push up prices in some categories of goods, but their overall effects on economic activity and inflation remain to be seen.
Yeah, so Powell's argument when it comes to tariffs, right, is that it ripples through the economy over a longer period of time. So it's just impossible to see the impacts today. So, you know, my stance on tariffs, I was a little more skeptical at first, I'll be completely honest. We haven't seen, other than, I mean, like, other countries being angry and people not traveling as much, we haven't seen a lot of overall price effects like across the board. So what Powell is suggesting now is that it ripples over the course of a longer period of time. But you know, I'll make my opinion known on whether or not I support them or I'm against them once we see better data. We just don't have good data right now, and that's all I care about. I don't give a fuck about how it feels. I care about like actual real world trackable data.
A reasonable base case is that the effects on
You haven't seen price effects? Dude, we're going over price effects right now. Prices are insane. Go grocery shop. Oh, okay. And we're probably falling into like fucking headlines right here. A couple things. Absolutely, there's like a couple items here and there. Like when we saw egg prices increase, that wasn't even due to this. It was like there was a swine flu going around. There's a lot of things being impacted by different things. Like to tie it directly to, again, all I care about, trust me, Jerome Powell, he'll talk shit about tariffs the moment he can. Trump and him do not like each other, but he's not able to give hardcore economic data right now on tariffs. And he say it takes a while for it to ripple through and get it. So prices are affected by so many different things across the board. To immediately tie it to a tariff when the Federal Reserve Chair, who has every literal incentive right now to say, hey, Trump's tariffs have fucked this and now we can't do anything, but isn't, you know, it's like, what are we doing? So I only care about facts. I don't care about if I go to the store and I see one item that all of a sudden is much more expensive, right? Because that's anecdotal. I care about facts. Give me data that I am able to look at that is from a reliable source, something like Fred, and that I will 100% aligned with, and I will light a fire and I will wave it and I'll freak out, okay? I just care about facts.
Inflation will be relatively short-lived, a one-time shift in the price level. But it is
right now. I mean, we're talking about inflation across products. Let's see if it's in this. I don't think it's in this article. Okay, I think it might be in this article. No, shit. A couple specific food products themselves have seen rapid inflation, where some food product, I think fruit specifically. Again, all I care about is the data, and I don't remember what article it was in from the Wall Street Journal because it was actually really good. It provided some really good data. Of course, this website's impossible to navigate. Fuck, this isn't it. Oh, I want this handy for you guys because it's actually very important information. But Wall Street Journal's literally impossible. Literally impossible to fucking find. Dude, what a fucking... Wall Street Journal, I like you, but what a fucking piece of shit searchable website you guys have. Have I gained weight? I don't think so. I hope not. I weigh myself on Thursdays, so tomorrow I'll find out, I guess. I don't think so. Overall, I'm definitely down for sure. Coffee, yes. Thank you in chat. Friggin' Cole. Coffee got obliterated, dude. Coffee got fucked. But some food prices have actually fallen as well. But coffee, oh my goodness. Coffee's fucked. Coffee's fucked. Yes, thank you for saying that.
It is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent, and that is a risk to be assessed and managed. Our obligation is to ensure that a one-time...
So here's, this is from Rutgers, right? The number one cause for the price effects in coffee aren't actually tariffs. It's a supply issue from massive bad weather and some climate issues that popped up over the season, the growing season in Brazil, which is the world's largest producer of the Arabica beans. They had a lot of droughts, and that, see, again, there's like more at play than just something that's in a political landscape, right? And it's a searchable with the resources we have that can go search. That's from Rutgers themselves. So there you go. Yeah, drought. So before I get people yelling, I'm like, prices are high. You haven't seen the effects. Well, there you go. Drought, weather. That was the biggest thing. It was the supply. I don't want to go full high school economics supply and demand, but fuck, there it is.
Increase in the price level does not become...
I ain't drinking no Arab beans. Yeah. Only freedom beans. Where do we grow freedom beans? Hawaii and South Florida. It's like the only place we can grow beans in the United States. Hi, listen here, Financial Audit. I've curated the exact resources and tools I personally use or would use if I was in certain situations. So take advantage of these offers in the resources section in the description below. The first one, I've moved my investments to Webull. Do the same and transfer to my investing app of choice, and you get cash bonuses of $200 all the way up to $30,000, depending on initial funding amount, and up to 8.1% APY on your money, and up to 3.5 matches for your IRA. And then number two, a great new checking account that I've switched over from SoFi, and it's called Chime. Get that $550 bonus when you sign up with direct deposit and get almost 4% on your money just sitting there. And then three, automate your investing with Acorns. Usually sign-up incentives are only $5, but you get $20 with my link. Number four, you can increase your income and boost your resume with a course career certification. 5, if T-Mobile is good in your area, switch to Helium and get a literal $0 a month phone plan for the same exact service. But most importantly, go get your free Hammer financial score and see where you stand in the world of finances. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com. You will not regret any of these. Change your life today.
Ongoing inflation problem. In the near term, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside and risks to employment to the downside, a challenging situation. When our goals are in tension like this, our framework calls for us to balance both sides of our dual mandate. With downside risks to employment having increased, the balance of risks has shifted. Accordingly, we judged it appropriate at this meeting to take another step toward a more neutral policy stance. With today's decision, we remain well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
Oh, Puerto Rico. Yes, Puerto Rico. True. How's the arable land situation in Puerto Rico? Because I think that's Hawaii's big problem, right? It's just like, it's all just like cliff and mountain.
In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate, based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario for the economy. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.6% at the end of this year,
Gross on close.
3.4% at the end of 2026.
They're so confident of what it's about to be in like a year. Like, I understand they're making the tweak to make the projections, right? So that's fine. Is another quarter basis point priced into the market? So right now, I mean, this market as a whole today is still down. It went down. I mean, it's not crazy. This was the all-time highs, right? Tuesday, so yesterday Wasn't that all-time highs? Yeah. It's like, I feel like it's priced in. It's down a little today. Oh no, the second highest day in stock market history. Oh, everything's burning. Like, I don't know. Like, I know this quarter basis points priced in. Are we expecting a future one? Is that priced in yet? No, not yet, not fully.
And 3.1% at the end of 2027. This path is 1/4 percentage point lower than projected in June. As is always the case, these individual forecasts are subject to uncertainty, and they're not.
2 more priced in. That would be kill me now if so. I guess that means we can at least ride the market for a bit. We can't afford houses. Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, my prediction, it can go. So, okay, there's a couple schools of thoughts. The first one, I don't think is what's going to happen, but it's very possible. I'm like 45% on this, okay? Rates go down. That allows people who are interest rate stuck or whatever, held hostage, and their interest rate to finally put their houses on the market, finally step away, which increases more supply, which allows people to get into houses at more affordable rates and might drive prices down. And then the one I think that's more going to happen, like I'm more 55% confident on, I think when rates go down, yes, that unlocks people to be able to have lower rates and get out of their house, which increases the supply. But all these people are also just going to go buy a house again. So does that really increase supply? Because then you're also competing with people who are finally getting in because rates are down. So now you have the same people that just sold who are going and buying, and people coming in for the first time because rates are low and they want to lock in. And then houses fucking skyrocket again. That's what I think is going to happen. We don't know for a fact. I don't know for a fact. I'm like 55% sure on that one, but that would be my strongest prediction, and we'll see.
Not a committee plan or decision. Policy is not on a preset course. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy.
Interest rates have to go down pretty substantially for that to happen, though.
Maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals.
r/real estate bubble will not be happy. Well, maybe, again, I mean, there is the chance that since the supply increases, and I guess if they don't translate into more buyers, which I don't really see how it's possible, but maybe they become renters, that prices could finally go down, but we'll see. I mean, overall, real estate's it's a commodity, right? I know there's like disagreement whether or not it should be, but it is currently. Is it ever going to go down? Even if it's at least keeping pace with inflation, I don't think it's ever going to go down on a long-term path. You're going to have boom and bust markets, sure, but are high rates better for reducing debt than low rates? Better than reducing debts? Well, it's easier to make progress on your debt with lower rates. They usually lower the minimum payments as well, though.
On just 1 second, Steve Leisman's made his way out of the room, and we'll come back with Jeffrey, of course, in just a minute. So, Steve,
well, here we go. This would affect the pricing cuts, right? Fed shows doubt about multiple rate cuts to the end of the year.
You read the statement and you heard the Fed chair, and then, of course, you asked your question. Is the biggest story today the massive disagreement, as we've termed it, over the outlook for the remainder of 25? Is that the biggest takeaway among others?
Well, Scott, let me correct you. The correct economic term for disagreement on...
Do the rate cuts apply to my federal student loans? Not the one that you have. You're locked in. Future, yes.
The Federal Reserve is dispersion of views, just so you know.
Thank you.
And that's a joke, of course. I'm
Good
guessing
joke. You
Jeff
got us.
Understood that one. Anyway, where we are is you had 7 folks who didn't want just either one more cut or no more cuts, and you have...
That's 7. 7 wanted to see no cuts.
9 who want 2 more cuts. And the way Powell explained it...
Well, it's easy to sway them, though, based on economic data, right? So if they see it slightly going worse to the inflation side, I'm sure a couple from the 9, or even one from the 9 is all that necessary to tie, right? Would go over from 2 more cuts to no cuts. But from the 7 that say no more cuts, I'm sure more bad job numbers with not the worst inflation data would move them over as well. So
was like, hey, with all the stuff that's going on right
You're right. If the votes hold steady through the end of the year for where they're at right now, I guess it sounds like 2 more.
Now, you would think we would have a dispersion of views or a debate. In fact, that's exactly what I asked him about. But before we get to that quote, which I want to run here, I said, is this a recalibration or is this meeting by meeting? And he said, it's meeting by meeting. We're going to have to see the data. And then he talked about this exact question that you asked about, Scott.
Ordinarily, when the labor market is weak, inflation is low. And when the labor market is really strong, that's when you got to be careful about inflation. So we have a situation where we have two-sided risk. And that means there's no risk-free path. And so it's quite a difficult situation for policymakers. And it's not at all surprising to me that you have a range of views.
Now, I think we went into this, Scott, with really one question, which is we knew a cut was going to happen.
Unemployment keeps going down. Rates keep going up. Unemployment ticked up, big guy, by 0.1%, I think. So that's not true. I mean, it's not fucking going on fire. Unpopular opinion, but inflation is a worthwhile trade-off, at least for me and my fellow stockholders. Yes, I mean, I think if they were equal, if what they were seeing, the danger of unemployment going up versus the danger of inflation going up, I think they would also pick inflation to be the one to battle. I think they're seeing the unemployment and overall economic numbers to be a bit more of a concern right now.
How much confidence can we have in the future cuts? I'm looking at the futures market, Scott, and I'm seeing that they're pretty much dialed in those other two rate cuts out there. I don't know if it's more or less than they should, but
so if they don't, does that mean the market goes down? Is that what we're looking at?
Certainly, Powell did not use that word recalibration, which is what he used in September 2024.
I'm at 3.25%. I'm afraid that'll never happen again. I don't know about never happen again. It probably won't get to that point in this cycle. I mean, I doubt it. But I mean, you could see something closer to like 4.5, and that's not a bad trade-off if you really want to move. You know, hopefully collect any kind of profits and gains, and that's not a terrible move. Certainly not a refinance, but
forecast additional cuts. We're looking now at January 2026. So that's pretty dialed in, that 360, which is, right, by the way, right on where the median Fed funds or Fed official is right now. So I do think there's some doubt that should be in investors' minds, Scott, only because if inflation goes a little hotter and jobs are a little stronger, maybe you get just one more cut.
I also have
That's
felt, Steve, over the last few meetings at least, that the chair himself has had an air of confidence about him, and
depends if it's currently priced in or not. It appears to be.
Where the Fed currently is and how it views the outlook and where they feel like they are. I feel like today you just have reintroduced a level of uncertainty around things that we really haven't felt in a while, to the degree that the Fed chair himself said it's not entirely clear what to do at the end of the sentence where he started, there's no risk-free paths now that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree a little bit, Scott. I think Powell is pretty comfortable with the uncertainty around it. It's like...
Okay. So here's...
Howard.
Okay, let's talk about it pricing into the market, because that's what I'm seeing a lot.
Neil Irwin with
Right
Axios.
Schneider with Reuters. So, as you mentioned a minute ago, some margins of the job market would suggest that the slide's already happening. A black unemployment rate in August was above 7%. Declining work week, difficulty among college graduates finding
especially male college graduates. Yeah.
work, high rising youth unemployment. Why do you think a 0.25 percentage point now is going to arrest that?
Well, I didn't say that I thought a 0.25 point would make a huge difference to the economy, but you've got to look at the whole path of rates, right? And the market's has already been baking in expectations. I mean, our market works through expectations, right? So I think our policy path really does matter. And I think it's important that we use our tools to support the labor market when we do see signs like that. I did mention that. You see minority unemployment going up. You see younger people who are more vulnerable economically, more susceptible to economic cycles. That's one of the reasons, in addition to just overall lower payroll job creation, that shows you that at the margin, the labor market is weakening. I would also point to labor force participation. Some part of the significant decline in labor force participation over the last year has probably been cyclical in nature rather than just the usual aging process. So we put all those things.
Mortgage rates will be lower than 2021 by 2027 because ain't no jobs out there. We're actually going to talk about that later in the stream. After this, we're going to see what Jerome's thinking AI's impact is on the labor market, and then we'll go into a piece about why it's so hard to find jobs right now.
Together, and we see that the labor market is softening, and we don't need it to soften anymore, don't want it to. So we use our tools, and it starts with a 25 basis point rate cut, but the market's also pricing in a rate path. I'm not blessing what the market's doing at all. I'm just saying it's not just one action.
As a follow-up to that, the growth mix right now seems very concentrated in an investment.
Even if you get a job right now, how long until it's automated? Yeah, I wish anyone had a question there, right? There's some doom and gloom, and there's also some optimism. It's really hard to say. AI, no matter the confidence that anyone has, I honestly think and have the perspective that it's a hill that is impossible to see the other side of. We're all just guessing as we're headed up it.
And on the consumer spending side in the higher income groups, do you feel that that's an
Why does minority unemployment matter over unemployment? I'm confused. My best guess is because when he says 7% for the black population in America, 7% is a scarier number. Better TV.
sustainable mix for the economy moving forward?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you're right. Those are two. We're getting unusually large amounts of economic activity through the AI build out and corporate investment. I don't know how long that will go on. No one does. In terms of spending, you saw the consumer spending numbers were well above expectations, and that may well be skewed toward higher earning consumers. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence to suggest that. Nonetheless, it's spending.
That's interesting. So spending among only those who are making the money, but bad against those who aren't. Let's see his take on AI.
There's been some debate lately on whether AI is already starting to affect the labor market in terms of lower labor demand, higher productivity by contrast. Do you buy that? And if that is true, does that have implications for the monetary policy setting?
So there's great uncertainty around that. I think my view, which is also a bit of a guess, but widely shared, I think, is that you are seeing some effects, but it's not the main.
Thank you. This is actually what I've been saying. It's not the main effects. People think it's because everyone's been replaced by AI and tech. Tech overhired a few years ago. Rates are high right now. Well, compared to at least what it's been over the past few years. When rates are this high compared to the last few years for this long, typically it's followed by a recession. So people aren't investing into new jobs. Now, the AI impact, tech businesses themselves are less hiring in certain sectors and more hiring in the AI field right now. So that might be where we see a lot of the impacts. And, there's layoffs. There's lots of corrections to the overhiring that was done a few years ago in tech.
Not the main thing driving it. And so particular focus on young people coming out of college. And yeah, there may be something there. It may be that companies or other...
or firing to create earnings. Yeah, I mean, layoffs definitely boost up stock prices for sure.
Institutions that have been hiring younger people right out of college are able to use AI more than they had in the past. That may be part of the story. It's also part of the story, though, that job creation more broadly has slowed down. The economy has slowed down. And so it's probably a number of things. But yeah, it's probably a factor. Hard to say how big it is.
Yeah, I agree with him on that for sure. So here's the Fed governor's number of dissenting votes each federal meeting. Wow, Fed Governor Stephen Merian, who was confirmed to the board this week, was the lone dissenter. That's hilarious. Interesting. So it's not that crazy right now. It's not like a big mutiny by any means. I mean, again, we've been holding rates for a fucking while now, since end of last year, right? Wasn't the last cut end of last year? Is that what that was? Yeah, absolutely. Last fall. It's almost been a full year. Now we just have a quarter point cut. Wow. Yeah, because we need to see something fucking crazy happen again to have a drop like this. I mean, look, even after the 2000 bubble, we went down to 1. It wasn't even 0. I mean, 1's still great, but that's the Fed rate specifically. It's not like you're going to get a 1% interest rate house. What houses were probably closer to like 5, 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we went down to more Fed rate 2-ish and had mortgage rates around 4.5-ish. What do you guys think? Working in software tech, I find it interesting how much there is such a push in developing AI functionalities, yet half the time the normal customers don't ask for it. So, I mean, it's probably for the stock price, right? It's probably it. Saying you're working on AI gets the stock price up. I think there's cool AI, but does every company need to? The Fed cut rates by 1 percentage point between September and December 2024, lowering them from a 2-decade high to prevent unnecessary weakness. I mean, look, so COVID, scared to 0. Fair enough. Okay, gotcha. But the last time we had zero, man, was the 2009 recession. Are we going to have a 2008 crisis? I don't think so. That's fucking crazy. That's usually once every few generations, right? So, and they would probably react quicker. Look how, so here's a recession. Look how, like, they reacted pretty slow here, I'd actually say. I'm surprised they didn't just go straight line down. Look, they didn't hit zero until we were well within the recession. So, I don't know. If for real, AI is going to end us? Oh, well, maybe. I think you're pretty confident on that. I would say we don't know. Trump's third term will get to zero. When he owns every Fed governor on the board, yeah. But employment had held between 4 and 4.2% over the preceding year, but it's up to 4.3% in August. Yeah, I mean, they're nervous. They're nervous. Food and energy price or inflation went up to 2.9% from 2.6% in April, which was a 4-year low. It was 2.7 a year ago, so they're not happy to see it higher than that a year ago. Okay. It's crazy times. And it looks like two are baked into the market, so we'll keep riding and we'll see what happens. Hey, Caleb Hammer stream fans, make sure you get your financial score for free. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com or dollarwise.com. It's free. See where you stand in the world of finances.